Dear students, welcome to today's class. Today's topic is acquired hemolytic anemia. So first, see hemolytic anemia means. So hemolytic anemia is defined as anemias resulting from an increase in the rate of red cell destruction. So RBCs destruction, that means destroy of RBCs. So I will define once again. Hemolytic anemias are defined as anemias resulting from an increase in the rate of red cell destruction. Hemolytic anemias are broadly classified into two main categories. Number one, acquired hemolytic anemias. Definition, meaning of acquired hemolytic anemia: these are extracorpuscular, caused by a variety of extrinsic environmental factors. So here environmental factors are causing the hemolytic anemia, so it is called as a acquired hemolytic anemia. Second, hereditary hemolytic anemia. So intracorpuscular, that means inside the red blood cells bleeding will happen. So hereditary hemolytic anemia is a intracorpuscular, whereas acquired hemolytic anemia is a extracorpuscular. And intracorpuscular, intrinsic red cell defects. So this hereditary hemolytic anemia is due to the intrinsic red cell defects. Clinical features of hereditary and acquired hemolytic anemia. So these are general clinical features. Number one, presence of pallor of mucous membranes. So here first one, pallor of mucous membrane, that means mucous membrane becomes transparent. Blood supply to the mucous membrane decreases, so it becomes pale color, that is pale is nothing but pallor. Next, positive family history with lifelong anemia in patients with congenital hemolytic anemia. So congenital means by birth hemolytic anemia is there, means that type of patients family history will be there and lifelong anemia will be there in that type of patients. Third point, mild fluctuating jaundice due to unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. So unconjugated hyperbilirubin anemia will be there, bilirubinemia, and mild, that means moderate, mild fluctuating jaundice will be there. Next point, urine becomes dark on standing due to excess of urobilinogen in urine. So urine becomes black due to urobilinogen in urine. Then next, splenomegaly, that means enlargement of spleen, is found in most chronic hemolytic anemias, both congenital and acquired anemias. Next, pigment gallstones are present in some cases. So it is some cases gallstones, that is nothing but stones in the gallbladder which are having the bile pigments. So pigment gallstones are found in some cases. So let us see. Pallor of mucous membranes, positive family history with lifelong anemia in congenital hemolytic anemia, mild fluctuating jaundice, urobilinogen in urine, splenomegaly, and bile pigment gallstones. Then classification of acquired hemolytic anemias. So you can see in red color here. First one is antibody is responsible for the hemolytic anemia. Second, B is mechanical trauma. C is direct toxic effects. D is acquired red cell membrane abnormalities. Then E is splenomegaly. So this is how they are classifying A to E, A, B, C, D, E. So in that one, first one, antibody. So antibodies are, we can identify hemolytic anemia by the presence of antibodies. So here these antibodies associated hemolytic anemias is nothing but the immunohemolytic anemias and isoimmunohemolytic anemia. So these two are the major antibody associated hemolytic anemias. In immunohemolytic anemias, autoimmunohemolytic anemia, that means autoimmune antibodies will be there which are appearing in the anemia and associated with bleeding. So autoimmunohemolytic anemia, AIHA. Then again this is having two groups, warm antibody AIHA, cold antibody AIHA. So warm antibody associated autoimmunohemolytic anemia, cold antibody associated autoimmunohemolytic anemia. Then next, drug induced immunohemolytic anemia. So here medicines or drugs are responsible for the hemolysis in which mediated by the immunoglobulins. Then isoimmunohemolytic anemia. So here immunohemolytic anemias, autoimmunohemolytic anemia, drug-induced immunohemolytic anemia, and isoimmunohemolytic anemia. Then next, after this antibodies associate, next mechanical trauma, that means due to accidents, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. So example for the mechanical trauma associated hemolytic anemia is microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. Then direct toxic effects. So this direct toxic effects causing hemolytic anemia, so malaria, bacterial infection, and other agents. So we will discuss this later completely, that with examples. Next, D, acquired red cell membrane abnormalities. So red cell membrane abnormalities is there which are acquired by birth, that is paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. So PNH. So P stands for paroxysmal, N stands for nocturnal, H for hemoglobinuria. So PNH is a example for the acquired red cell membrane abnormalities. Next, E, splenomegaly. So enlargement of spleen. So enlargement of spleen will be there, which will be observed in the hemolytic anemia. So these 5 we will go and discuss one by one. First, autoimmunohemolytic anemia. So autoimmunohemolytic anemia is characterized by formation of autoantibodies. Remember, antibodies, autoantibodies against patients' own red cells. Depending on the reactivity of the autoantibody, AIHA divided into two types: warm antibody, A, autoimmunohemolytic anemia, cold antibody associated AIHA. So warm antibodies means here autoantibodies reactive at 37 degrees Celsius. That means body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. At the body temperature 37 degrees Celsius, these autoantibodies will be active, and these antibodies will cause the hemolytic anemia associated with the bleeding, RBC destruction. So warm antibody associated AIHA, autoantibodies reactive at 37 degrees Celsius. Cold antibody AIHA, autoantibodies reactive at cold temperature, that is 4 degrees Celsius. So for cold temperature, cool temperature. So below 8 degrees Celsius is cold temperature. So 4 degrees Celsius you can notice here. So 4 degrees Celsius is cold antibody hemolytic anemia, and warm antibody 37 degrees Celsius. Slide. We will compare these two, warm antibody AIHA and cold antibody autoimmunohemolytic anemia. So here etiology, next pathogenesis, then clinical features and treatment. So we are discussing the 4 parameters: etiology, pathogenesis, clinical features, and treatment. So first one, etiology, that is conditions predisposing to AIHA. So here warm antibody, if you see, idiopathic, that means unknown cause, lymphomas, leukemias, leukemia means blood cancer, and lymphomas, lymph glands associated. So it will be seen in the Hodgkin's disease and non-Hodgkin's disease lymphoma. Then collagen vascular diseases, that means diseases in which collagen get damaged. Example is SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus. This is autoimmune disease of this collagen tissue. Next, drugs, examples of drugs which are causing the hemolytic anemia, that is methyl dopa, penicillin, quinidine group. Then next, post viral. So after viral infection we are getting the warm antibody AIHA. So you can see the causes: idiopathic, lymphomas and leukemias, collagen vascular diseases, drugs, and post viral. So these are all the causes for the warm antibody AIHA. Then cold antibody AIHA, cold agglutinin disease. So first one is cold agglutinin disease. It may be acute or chronic. So acute mycoplasma infection, chronic idiopathic lymphomas. So these two diseases, acute and chronic diseases, in which cold condition hemolytic anemia will be seen. Then next one, PCH, paroxysmal cold hemoglobinuria. So PCH, paroxysmal cold hemoglobinuria, it will be observed in the following infections: mycoplasma infection, viral flu, measles, mumps, syphilis. And you can see here paroxysm means sudden. So due to sudden cold conditions exposure of a patient, we can see the hemolysis of the RBCs, which is causing the anemia. So paroxysm is nothing but the sudden hemolytic anemia of hemolytic anemia. Next, pathogenesis. Here warm antibodies reactive at body temperature 37 degrees Celsius. and here IgG antibodies are playing role. So IgG antibodies are the auto antibodies produced, whereas in case of cold antibody AIHA, IgM type antibodies, so IgM type antibodies in cold antibody AIHA and IgG antibodies in warm antibody AIHA. Then you can see clinical features. So here pathogenesis, you can see before going to clinical features, you can see pathogenesis. One is temperature for warm 37, cold 4 degrees Celsius, reactive temperature of the antibodies, then antibodies associated with IgG, IgM. In clinical features, warm antibody IHA, chronic anemia of varying severity with remissions and relapses. So remissions and relapses, reoccurring of the hemolysis is happening, that is chronic and causing chronic anemia. Second point is splenomegaly, spleen enlargement. Third one is occasionally hyperbilirubinemia. So occasionally hyperbilirubinemia is observed. These are the clinical features. Cold antibody AIHA, you can see chronic anemia worsened by exposure to cold. That means the patient, if exposed to the cold condition, that means that is winter season, cold conditions, or rainy season, due to exposed to the cold condition, anemia is happening. So chronic anemia is increases by exposure to cold. Second point is Raynaud's phenomena. So Raynaud's phenomena means body feel numb and cool in certain circumferences. So that phenomena is called a Raynaud phenomena. Then cyanosis, that means previous slide we can see cyanosis means blue color, skin becomes blue due to the blood supply decreases. So cyanosis of nose, ears, fingers and toe. Then number fourth clinical features, hemoglobinemia and hemoglobinuria. So hemoglobin in causing anemia and hemoglobin in the urine. So hemoglobinemia and hemoglobinuria, exposure to cold, occur on exposure to cold. Then treatment for these two. So first one, warm antibody, removal of cause, corticosteroids therapy. In severe cases, blood transfusion is recommended. Then splenectomy, so see replacement of spleen. So these are the four treatment methods they are using for the warm antibody AIHA. Cold antibody autoimmunohemolytic anemia, keeping the patient warm, treating the underlying cause. So we should treat the cause, then we can cure the cold antibody AIHA. Then other hemolytic anemias, drug induced immunohemolytic anemia. So drug induced immunohemolytic anemia, drugs names, you can see the names: alpha methyl-dopa type antibodies, penicillin induced immunohemolysis, innocent bystander immunohemolysis. So here alpha methyl-dopa, penicillin and innocent bystander. So innocent bystander immunohemolysis means immunohemolysis happens in a patient, but patient don't know what is the cause for the hemolysis anemia, hemolytic anemia. So that is nothing but the innocent bystander. Unknowingly happens hemolysis, blood, that is destruction of RBCs. Next, isoimmunohemolytic anemia. So in isoimmunohemolytic anemia caused by acquired isoantibodies or alloantibodies by blood transfusions, pregnancies and in hemolytic disease of newborn. So this isoimmunohemolytic anemia is observed caused by the iso antibodies which occurs in blood transfusions, pregnancies and hemolytic disease of newborn. These antibodies produced by one individual are directed against red blood cells of the other. So the antibodies produced in one person and those are transferred to the other person, and there they are causing the destruction of red blood cells. That is isoimmunohemolytic anemia. Next, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. So you can see micro, small, caused by abnormalities in the microvasculature, that means capillaries. Microvasculature is nothing but the capillaries abnormalities will be there. Generally due to mechanical trauma to the red cells in circulation, characterized by red cell fragmentation, red cell fragmentation, you can see cystocytosis. Three different ways by which microangiopathic hemolytic anemia occurs or results. First one is external impacts, cardiac hemolysis. Second one. Third one is fibrin deposit in microvasculature. So first one, external impact. So external impact to the tissue happens in joggers. So the persons who are doing occasional jogging or too much long distance jogging they are doing, they are getting the external impact. So joggers, karate players while playing prolonged marches, so doing marching for long duration, that time external impact happens and microangiopathic hemolytic anemia occurs in a localized place of the body. Cardiac hemolysis, then third one, fibrin deposit in microvasculature in following conditions: abnormalities in the vessel wall, thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, hemolytic uremic syndrome, disseminated intravascular coagulation, vasculitis in collagen diseases. So these five different conditions, microvasculature, in the microvasculature fibrin deposit happens, which causes the hemolytic anemia. Hemolytic anemia from direct toxic effects. So what are those toxic, direct toxic chemicals or diseases? One is malaria, which is affecting the liver and it is causing the hemolytic anemia. Malaria, Bortonellosis, septicemia with Clostridium welchi, then septicemia causing, then other microorganisms such as pneumococci, staphylococci and E. coli. Copper, lead poisoning, snake and parasite bites, extensive burns. So you can see here extensive burns. Somebody taken fire, burnt with the fire, too much body is get burnt. That type of person is getting hemolytic anemia. Snake poison causing hemolytic anemia and parasite poison. Lead poisoning and copper, heavy metals poisoning. Then infection causing septicemia. Then microorganisms, pneumococcus, staphylococcus, E. coli. Malaria is the first preference. So in all these diseases and other poison chemicals, hemolytic anemia is caused by the direct effect. Then next, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, PNH, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, rare acquired disorder of red cell membrane in which there is chronic intravascular hemolysis due to defective synthesis of red cell membrane protein. So you should notice here defective synthesis of red cell membrane protein. The defect affects all the cells of myeloid progenitor lineage. That means in the bone where the RBCs, WBCs, platelets or formation is taking place, those all the cells are called as a myeloid progenitor cells, suggesting a deficient hemopoiesis. So hemoglobin formation, RBC formation is get decreased. So due to the defect in the red cell membrane due to some protein defect. So this is paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, PNH. Then PNH entrance point of view, many times they will ask PNH means what? Paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. Pathogenesis, acquired clonal disease of cell membrane. Defect is a mutation in the stem cell affecting myeloid progenitor cells. So here stem cells is there in the bone marrow blood synthesis. So stem cells are get affected. Partial or complete deficiency of anchor protein. So here anchor protein deficiency will be there. PNH is a stem cell disorder. You should notice here it is a stem cell disorder. It may be accompanied by other stem cell disorders such as aplastic anemia, myelodysplastic syndrome. So this PNH can be accompanied with the aplastic anemia and myelodysplastic syndrome. Then hemolytic, next disease is hemolytic anemia in splenomegaly. So spleen acts as a filter and traps damaged RBCs, destroys them with phagocytic effect of splenic macrophages. So here RBCs are get destroyed, which are the old RBCs or damaged RBCs is get destroyed by the macrophages present in the spleen. If not destroyed, then splenomegaly happens. Treatment: splenectomy or reduction in size of spleen by appropriate therapy relieves the anemia, improves the leukocytes and platelet counts. Thank you. And reference textbook of pathology by Harsh Mohan, 7th edition. Thank you once again.